Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Adam. Well, there's Adam from the Durham Parish Council, who's done a lot of work, and know about many others. And particularly thank you to Roger and Jean hosting us and allowing the plaque to go on your home. And I understand now that you knew Sam. So huge thanks to everybody for, and it's happening, for inviting me to be part of this. Sam's story, as I've read it, I think is Professor Richard Hussey here.
Yes.
There he is, because I think you've supplied a lot of the academic background and research, talking to local people. I think I'm right in saying that if Sam was here, he'd be a little bit surprised, because when he stood, he was standing because he wanted to do something for his community. He just wanted to get things done. He wanted to get the city moving.
Yeah.
And I think that's a classic community councillor politician, and huge credit to him for that, and to all those who go down that route. But when he stood, it was just 5 years after the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality, and he decided that he wanted to put on his manifesto that he was a member of the Gay Liberation Front. And having made that decision that he wanted to be open and transparent about who he was to the voters, he then said to the local Liberal Party, are you sure you want me to stand in Crossgate? And apparently there was a retired school teacher who Sam in the World in Action film says was this little old woman, who said, no, people know you, Sam. We want you to stand. They know you in Crossgate and they'll get behind you. And then Sam had the courage to do just that. And apparently he went knocking on doors, delivering leaflets, surveying people, asking them what they wanted to improve in their area. And then he got elected. And I think, going back, imagine 1972. Imagine what he faced. Imagine how difficult it was for him. I mean, there are politicians even now who aren't prepared to be open about their sexuality. There he was back then doing that. And I think it's a testament to his courage and bravery that he did that. But I also think it's testament to the people of the city of Durham, people of Crossgate, who said, we don't care about that. You're the one who's knocking on doors and saying you want to do something for us. And they put aside, at least a large number of them put aside any concerns they had, and they just backed someone who wanted to improve their community. So huge congratulations to those people back then who went up beyond that discrimination that was still in our society. So I reflect now on the progress we've made since then. There are 75 LGBT MPs in the House of Commons now. 75. Unbelievable that should happen in that relatively short period of time in our history. The Lib Dems have just elected a president to our party, Josh Babrindi, who is openly gay, and he proposed to his partner in the House of Commons just last week. And what was remarkable about that, it was not remarked upon. And that's how far we have come. So real progress. But I don't know what Sam would say, but I'm sure people here would say this. I certainly feel it. Though there's been a lot of progress to be proud of, and people like Sam should take a lot of the credit for that, there's more to do. We still see homophobia in our society. We still see discrimination, people who feel unable to tell people who they are and hide their identity. And I don't want to live in a society like that. I want people to be who they want to be. And that's what we should have. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so good we've got this plaque, to show what Sam achieved, but also to remind people that we should treasure that progress and work even harder for it. Now, the history apparently is a little uncertain, but I'm going to say it anyway. We know that Councillor Sam Green was the first openly elected politician in the United Kingdom. What an amazing thing. But we also think he might have been the world's first openly gay elected politician, and that is quite something in district here in the city of Durham. So you should be so proud of Sam. And so it's a huge pleasure to be able to unveil the plaque, and I hope I get it right. So the City of Durham Parish Council, Sam Green, Durham City Councillor from 1972 to 1979, lived at 14th Avenue. A true trailblazer, Sam was the first openly gay councillor elected in Britain. Sam actively represented Crossgate Ward alongside championing diversity in public life. Well, you must be really proud of this.
Yeah, well, the fact that not many people know about Sam Green is something that I just think, as a Durham lad, why didn't I know about that? Yeah. So it's great, not only this bit of history, but currently at the moment, you know, it's very difficult for prides or LGBT people in Durham for obvious reasons. Yeah. So this is a great event, and hopefully I'll get a photograph of you with a plaque, and we'll be able to spread it far and wide to actually spread that message. That
let's get a photograph.
I think it is just so important, the fact that Sam Green lives here in Durham. And Durham is such a diverse community. It's always been a welcoming community. And the fact that Sam was a trailblazer in terms of unapologetically being openly gay on the Durham Council, and he sort of paved the way then for others who wanted to come into public service. I think, you know, we've come a long way in LGBTQ plus rights, a long way, but there's still a need to go further, especially in times like this now, where there's a little bit more divisiveness and hatred across the country, and we need to stick together, make sure that we make people welcome, we treat all people with respect and dignity, and it's up to all politicians to ensure that that happens in their areas.
I suppose because so few people know about Sam Green, so putting the plaque up is a way of letting more people know about that, and it's a really important part of our history. I think LGBT community, we haven't been given the opportunity to celebrate our history, so we don't know our history. So something like a permanent plaque gives us that opportunity to really mark where we've been important in the past, and then move forward from there to where we are in the present. I'm of a generation where we've just kept striding forward, and I think particularly being in Durham is quite telling, where we've got Reform in charge and they've taken down the Pride banners, they've taken down the flags, and that's a retrograde step. And I think it's unfortunate that there's this upswell of support for a party like that, because I think in the past we've been part of moving forward. I was the first out gay councillor in Newcastle, and I didn't know about Sam Green. So, you know, I feel like at least I can try and carry forward some of that legacy now.
I teach history at Durham University, and we were really excited to be part of helping the parish council and tell this story. Completely overlooked, I think, in the decade since 1972, but it was a real trailblazing moment just 5 years after partial decriminalisation, that there were people here in Durham city centre who elected Sam as the first ever openly gay election candidate to win in the UK, and I think probably in the democratic world, because it's only the next couple of years that you start to see openly gay people being elected in the US even. Yeah, I think by the time of the struggles in the 80s and 90s, actually, people weren't thinking and talking about Sam so much. I think it also tells us something in the 70s, that people were still working through the ways in which there were sort of still battles to be fought, that partial decriminalisation was a milestone but not the finishing line. Sam was able to be accepted and get elected as a councillor, but we know that for decades afterwards there were people seeking public office who would often face prejudice. I know in Sam's case he would still even get assaulted in the street and abuse and things like that. So I think it's a real reminder just how brave he was in wanting to be open and tell people who he was before he got elected, and making a statement.
You think I'm all right as a ward councillor?
Oh, most certainly. You're getting things done, and that's what they want. They're half asleep in Durham.
Not at all, but we think you needn't talk about it. We've all heard about it, and we don't want to know any more. It's your private business.
I think that's a fair
Yes, I think so.
Yes,
I think it's not necessary.
It doesn't bother you about me being a homosexual?
Oh, no, good heavens. Everybody's life's their own. Good heavens. You live and let live, as I say.
We don't agree with it. We won't have them in our home.
I've often felt that there is a cure for these people by the very fact that if they contacted a medical officer or even went to the doctors, and the doctor may be able to help them on surgical or even pills of some description.
Whilst we might accept Sam Green in the position as it is today, our normal reaction to homosexuality as a whole, I think, is one of slight revulsion. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think if a homosexual MP was standing for Durham, do you think you'd be able to win the seat?
Not a hope in hell. Not a hope in hell.
Well,
be honest, Ron. We live in we've had an isolated instance here of one councillor getting one seat. For a man to stand up and contest Durham as a potential MP, he wouldn't have it. He'd be lucky if he saved his deposit.
I think it's a story about bravery and a story perhaps about pride, because he was wanting people to know before he was elected, so he couldn't be accused of keeping it secret, of keeping it shameful. It takes enormous bravery to do that in that period. Lots of people understandably still felt they had to be in the closet, even if they were taking a role in public life. And so I do think it's really actually a story, number one, about bravery and about being willing to actually take that risk. And as he put it himself, to take a risk on whether people would see past their prejudices and see him and the contribution he had to make.